Hi, I'm Dr. George Yancey. Let's share some paradigms. And the paradigm I want to share today concerns using Latinx. I want to talk about a phenomenon that I noted several years ago. I was talking to some of my friends and colleagues who were Hispanic. Now, at the time, generally, when I talked about Hispanics, I may use the term Hispanic, I may use the term Latino, Latina, depending on the situation. Now, obviously, Latino, Latina, those are gendered. Latino is male, Latina is female. And some of my Hispanic friends were telling me that basically they had become uncomfortable with this sort of terminology. So the common term was Latinx. Now, being who I am, I don't like to offend people unless I absolutely have to. I do enough on my own without going out of my way to do so. And I saw the rationale behind this. Latinx was not gendered. Latinx was inclusive. It seemed like it was, the right way to go. So in my writings and in my talks, I started using the term Latinx. And I felt pretty good about this. I felt pretty good about doing something for a group other than my own, which was respectful to them. Okay, so about a couple of years ago, then, I started seeing some articles of Hispanics critiquing the term Latinx. And as I read these articles, it became clear to me that more and more, while Latinx had become common among the more, shall we say, educated Hispanics, it was not that common among the everyday person. And many of them were complaining about the sort of inclusive nature of it, that for them, their language was gendered and was something that gender was an important part of what their language is. So now I'm confused. From one group of friends that say, hey, this is the term we want to use, yeah, I'm hearing more and more, that this is not the term to use. So I did something that I don't normally do in order to get information. I went online and used social media. I have a Facebook page and I just emailed it out and I asked my Hispanic, Latino, Latinx, whatever friends, what do you prefer? Do you prefer Latina, Latino, or do you prefer Latinx? Overwhelmingly, they came back and said they preferred Latina, Latino. And this got me thinking about what was happening here. But before I talk about what was happening here, let me just say, if this sort of conversation is kind of interesting to you, and I'm a Christian sociologist, which is not usual, but I also want to create a space for those of us who are not comfortable in the left or the right, who want to use our faith to apply it in ways that transcend some of the paradigms, if you will, then please consider subscribing to this channel. If you like what I'm talking about, give a comment, give me a like. I came to the conclusion that what had happened was I was listening to Hispanics, many of them pretty good friends of mine that I respected, but who were in education, in the higher education. We're talking about people with PhD degrees. You can't get any more educated than that. Lord knows I've tried. And they had a certain perspective on how things should be, which is their right. And they thought through. And in their value system, they came up with Latinx as a way to meet this need of addressing Hispanics or Latinas. But their idea was not the idea that's commonplace. To the common person who is of Hispanic origin, this made no sense to them whatsoever. And it reinforced in me that what can happen is that we in academia can get so high-minded or so distant from other individuals that we can't always communicate well with them. I start to use Latinx as a term of respect and as a way to effectively communicate with Hispanics and with other people. For me, I had no skin in the game. I didn't personally care. I wasn't going to be offended one way or the other. I was listening to others, and they were saying, this is the way we want to do, and I was doing it that way. But I come to realize that my friends, they were talking among themselves and using terms that fit with their worldview without considering the broader Hispanic community. I've seen articles now. They've done surveys. Latinx is not popular among Hispanics. I've stopped using Latinx, except for this video, of course, because I've come to conclude that it's not what I thought it was going to be, a way of communicating in a respectful way to Hispanics and for Hispanics if I'm trying to talk about the situation for Hispanics in my race ethnicity class or something like that. And that's fine. But I do think that we in academia need to be careful that we don't promote language that makes us feel comfortable but brings a failure to communicate with other individuals. To make a broader point of this, you see in our works all the time, the way we write. I've written books that are academic, and I've written Christian books. And if you want to check them out, you can go to my personal webpage or you can go to Amazon. I've done both. And so I've learned how to write in both venues. I find that when I write for academics, because of certain pressures put on me, I can write in a more obtuse manner. Now, I try to write the books in a way that non-academics can read them, and most of my academic books can be that way. But I still struggle with that. There's nothing wrong with being precise with our language. But if that precision leads to miscommunication, then that's a problem. So, the lesson of Latinx, a term that I don't use any longer because I want to communicate. And perhaps I would use it if I was talking to another Hispanic who was a PhD degree. Well, thanks. Thanks for coming by. I hope you enjoyed this talk. And once again, please come by again and subscribe and be with me as we shatter some more paradigms.